Facebook's COO, Sheryl Sandberg, is quitting. This is the worst time to leave the company because Facebook is facing its worst challenges since the company's inception, with Facebook stock dropping by over 40% in this year alone while it takes on new risk through its metaverse gamble. For those who don't know who Sheryl Sandberg is, Sandberg has been with Facebook since its early days while there were still only 40 million users. Not only did she take Facebook through their IPO, she was instrumental in monetizing Facebook's user base. At the time, Facebook's founder, Mark Zuckerberg, was still immature, so Sandberg's role was to do everything he didn't want to do, and that meant taking on roles outside of her job scope: the recruitment of employees, the hiring of key executives, coordinating Facebook's global expansion, setting up company policy and management, and everything else, all while guiding Mark Zuckerberg and showing him how to run the business. It would not be an exaggeration to say before she put in her resignation, she was the number 2 in the company after Mark Zuckerberg. She was a superstar which defined Facebook's COO position in her own special way. Her involvement was instrumental in turning Facebook from an unprofitable startup into a digital advertising empire. You might have even heard of her best-selling book, Lean In, which shows how she managed her career as a Facebook executive. The departure of a key leader at Facebook is an unwelcome reality for Facebook, especially when investor confidence in the company is as low as it is right now. So why is Sheryl Sandberg quitting? There have been rumors which suggest she is quitting because she was investigated by the company for using corporate resources to plan her wedding, but Facebook shot those rumors down. Some of the people who have worked with Sandberg for years are saying Sandberg felt she was targeted because she was a woman executive. She feels the harassment would not have happened if she was a man, and she is sick of it. This worldview is not completely unreasonable because she was blamed for several parts of Facebook's businesses that she never had any control over. She also had to defend Facebook for some of their mistakes which she wasn't responsible for. Mark Zuckerberg has also been taking a greater control over Facebook's operations. Sheryl Sandberg was hired when Facebook was still young and Mark Zuckerberg still didn't have enough experience. Now that he has, it is time to take training wheels off. Sheryl Sandberg told Facebook's founder, Mark Zuckerberg, that she was quitting back in May, considering she had planned to stay with Facebook for 5 years back in 2008. This is hardly surprising. Staying in one company as its chief operating officer for 14 years is an incredible feat and quite tiring, so it isn't surprising that she would want to spread her wings after committing so much of her life to a single company. Whatever the case, Sandberg won't leave the company empty-handed. Over the last decade, she has sold over 70% of her after-tax shares through scheduled share sale programs. She has a net worth of $1.6 billion, which she managed to achieve through the sale of her 22 million Facebook shares over the years, which makes her one of the largest insider sellers in the USA. While Sandberg doesn't indulge herself with expensive trappings of the ultra-rich, she has a keen eye for philanthropy. She has donated over $100 million to Fidelity Charitable and has given away an estimated $480 million to charity. That still leaves her with plenty to spend. Sandberg took on many responsibilities that she never needed to take on throughout her tenure as a COO. She managed marketing, business development, legal problems, and human resources, as well as public policy, where she testified before Congress to defend Facebook when there were scandals, things that she wasn't required to do. This helped Facebook a lot. Her contributions to Facebook are quite large. Before Sheryl Sandberg joined Facebook back in 2008, Sheryl had worked as the vice president of global sales and operations at Google, so she had a lot of experience in marketing. Most of Facebook's ability to generate ad revenue today was largely based on her efforts. Facebook became very profitable after Sandberg improved its advertising infrastructure. Whenever Facebook went under fire, Sandberg was always the first public figure from Facebook who would try to reassure the public, so it comes as no surprise that she always came under fire for her response towards any controversies which came Facebook's way. She was heavily criticized for the way she handled Facebook's scandals. During the Cambridge Analytica scandal, when Facebook's user data was stolen, she was the one who had to explain what happened. Sandberg also had to deal with Facebook's role in the insurrection at the Capitol, where their platform was used by Trump supporters to organize protests to storm the Capitol. As a general consensus, Sheryl, as Facebook's COO, and Facebook as a whole should have done more to de-escalate the issue before it became a problem. In a leaked document, Facebook was not prepared for the spread of disinformation and the propagation of hate throughout the platform. Tech stocks like Meta have taken a hit this year, and Sheryl's departure from Facebook came at a time when tech stocks were having a small rally. After all the blood in the frothy market, Meta, which had been up by 5% that day, lost 3% of its value, and traders found out that Meta's COO was leaving the company. Sheryl has been with Facebook for many years and will continue to have some influence over the troubled social media giant. Despite passing on her COO role to new blood, Sheryl will continue to sit on Facebook's board of directors. While she is unsure of what the future may bring, she is planning to marry this summer and has intentions to focus on more philanthropic activities and champion women's rights after she leaves the company. While some investors are skeptical of Sheryl's departure and suspect there will be negative impacts on Facebook's growth, the choice of Facebook's COO should reduce some of their worries. Facebook has decided to appoint Mr. Javier Olivan to be the next COO. Javier Olivan is the Chief Growth Officer and Vice President of Facebook and was previously tasked with growing Facebook's international user base while it was still in the low 40 millions to the whopping 2.9 billion today. Like Sheryl, Javier has also been in the company for 14 years and was involved with Facebook's advertising division, analytics, and infrastructure. Zuckerberg completely believes in Javier and once said that he was capable of solving any challenge Facebook faced way back in 2017. It is interesting to note that Mark Zuckerberg doesn't expect Javier Olivan to take over most of Sandberg's roles. He is instead planning to delegate Sandberg's roles to Facebook's business and product divisions, focusing on integration throughout the company rather than maintaining Facebook's current organizational structure. So don't expect to see Javier Olivan defending the company out in the open and attending questioning sessions at Congress whenever there's another scandal like Cambridge Analytica or the Capitol riots incident, because that was never part of the COO's job scope. Olivan's job will still include repairing Facebook's ability to monetize their ads. Sheryl may have built Facebook's advertising engine, but now that she is leaving, someone else will have to fix it instead. Facebook's future rests in Javier's capable hands. Having said that, Sheryl Sandberg's departure from Facebook will be delayed as she completes the transition of responsibilities to Facebook's new COO. Sheryl's contribution to Facebook will always be remembered. However, Facebook's core business is currently under threat. The large tech sell-off in the markets was not the only reason why Facebook was down by 40% this year. The decline in Facebook's stock price began last year when they reported an incredibly weak forecast of their future ad revenue growth. Facebook's lower profits from ads was because of Apple. Last year, Apple introduced new privacy features for their iOS devices, requiring all apps tracking user behavior to stop doing so at once, forcing app developers to ask iOS users to opt in before they could actually track them. The problem is no one wants a social media company to track them using their camera, microphone locations, phones, photos, or contacts. Apple's iOS update last year also pushed for more transparency for iOS apps, allowing users to see how certain apps like Facebook were using their phones, tablets, and MacBooks to track them. Now people can see how apps are farming their personal data. They are also less likely to opt in. So with one iOS update, Facebook lost its ability to farm 1 billion iOS users worth of data, and without user data, the highly targeted ads that Facebook has promised to their rich advertiser clients will be harder to achieve. No advertiser is willing to pay money for inaccurate ad targeting. This was the reason why Facebook decided to go all in into its horrible metaverse strategy, spending $10 billion into its metaverse research division, Reality Labs, for an idea which might or might not work, all because its old business model was failing. Thankfully, Ms. Sandberg has never been too involved with Facebook's metaverse plans and never attended the most important meetings for the metaverse development because her strengths lay within managing and monetization. So her departure will not affect Facebook's metaverse plans too much. With the growth of alternative platforms like TikTok and the departure of a decent COO, Facebook's days seem numbered. Facebook has tried to fight TikTok by adding their Facebook Reels, which allows users to make videos under 30 seconds long, but they have not managed to find a way to monetize it yet. Facebook also faces a more existential problem as it is increasingly seen as a platform for older people. Looking at Facebook stock, its price to earnings ratio is quite shocking. Sitting at 14 times their earnings, Facebook is massively undervalued compared to other tech stocks in the Nasdaq, which have PEs hovering around 27 times earnings. This is not surprising since Facebook stock has dropped by 40% this year. A fat chunk of Facebook's bearish sentiment comes from investors who believe Facebook's metaverse play will fail completely. These investors are ignoring Facebook's growth in advertising revenue, which is still impressive despite the slow growth engineered by the stronger privacy controls on iOS devices. It is important to understand that Facebook's revenue in 2021 still exceeded its 2020 revenue, so the revenue is still growing, although at a slower pace. If you truly believe in Facebook's ad revenue business, buying now when the stock is massively hammered might be an option. Who knows, we might be making fun of Facebook's metaverse plan now, but if it it really takes off, Facebook might add a couple trillions into its revenue far off in the future. The panic surrounding Sandberg's departure might seem like a joke when the time comes. Like and subscribe.